Hi, I'm Laura,
And I'm Joe.
and this is CrimeDivers.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's episode.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back.
And welcome back to the last episode of Season 5. Yeah, so this is our last episode before we take a wee break because somebody is
Going on holiday. Guess where I'm going?
She's going to her favourite place. She's going to Florida.
Yes, first time in 3 years.
I know, but I think it'll be good this year because your daughter's 7 now. Mm-hmm. So I think it'll be really good
It's
taking
the first time
her.
we're just going the three of us as well, because normally we have like other members of the family.
Yeah.
So it'll be nice just to do a holiday, the three of us, and obviously not being able to go away since COVID, so it's quite exciting. So that does mean that we need to take a little holiday.
Yes, we're going to take a little break because I'm like, well, I might not be going away, but if you're going on holiday, I'm having a holiday as well. So I'm just going to have a holiday at home.
Exactly. I'll send you a load of pictures.
Yeah, I know you will. And bring me back peanut butter M&Ms.
Always.
That's when Laura says I'm going to Florida, my first thought is peanut butter M&Ms.
Oh, technically, you're not actually doing anything for me this time. Because normally you'd be looking after my dog. This is the very first time you're not. Because my dog's not here anymore.
I know, both of us have lost our dogs in the past
couple
of years, haven't we?
I know. And that was normally your fee for looking after my dog.
I would look after the dog and she'd bring me back peanut butter M&Ms. Well,
I'll just do it because I love you.
Just do it because you love me, yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Right, so I think we better shut up and just get on with it. So, actually, today, since it's the last episode of Season 5, we've got a wee treat.
Yes.
And we actually have a listener-requested episode.
We do.
Yes. So, Emma, thank you very much for emailing us and asking us to do this case. Laura thinks you are hilarious because...
Yes.
Because... this is a French one, so she knows that obviously I'm going to have trouble pronouncing stuff. So she thinks it's brilliant that you've asked.
She's actually already had to go on Google or YouTube or whatever it is.
YouTube.
Is it YouTube to get the pronunciation?
Because I've forgotten how to pronounce it already,
So,
the family name.
I have to say, I think we're in for a treat. So, Emma, thank you very much for this one. And I'm so looking forward to hearing it.
Yeah, so thanks, Emma. All seriousness, thanks. It's always great when our listeners get in touch. Absolutely. And if anybody else would like to request a case, for next season or whatever, then yeah, just
drop us an email.
Yeah, drop us an email or get in touch on social media. We'll, at the end of every episode, we always give us the information. Plus, the information's in the show notes as well. So cool. Yeah. So shall we dive in for the last episode of Series 5?
Because I'm going on holiday.
All right, shut up.
So, where are we in the world, as we already know?
We're in France.
Oh, funny that, yeah. And what is it called?
The Missing Count.
Okay.
So, a little bit of a mystery. So, do you want to dive in?
Let's dive in.
Okay, so, according to Wikipedia, the Dupont De Ligonnes family were an old aristocratic family originally from Anuni in the... Right. I don't know about in other parts of the world, but I know in some parts of the UK, a noonie is
a lady's private
a lady garden.
Yes.
So this is a noonie.
Right.
I know that's why she was laughing. That's why I thought I'd better explain to the listeners because we have worldwide listeners. So yeah,
yes, it's a slang word, I suppose.
Yeah. So yeah, they were originally from Anuni in the Vivarais region in southeastern France. Their ancestors include Edward Dupont De Ligonnes. Oh, stop it! Stop it.
Okay, I'm stopping.
She's got tears in her eyes. Once she gets like this, she doesn't stop, so we might have to pause. Are we going to have to pause?
No, we're good. Right. Just carry on.
Right, shut up.
Okay, sorry.
Right, their ancestors include Edward Dupont De Ligonnes. I can't do this. I can't. Well, we paused.
We did pause. I'm very sorry. That was uncontrollable.
Yeah. I mean, I could have just wiped that out we could edit it out, but I thought, you know what? I'm just going to let people hear how immature we are.
Yeah. Sometimes we have laughing fits at just names. It's just like names and stuff, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
Because obviously, in all seriousness, none of it's laughing.
No, of course it's not. It's a true crime podcast, but when, especially when we can't pronounce certain words and things like that, then if once one of us starts, the other one goes, and it's just carnage. So, as I said, I could have edited it out, but I thought, you know what? It's the last episode of Series 5. You know what? We're talking about Noonies.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
So I'm not going to start right from the start. I'm going to start from where I got to, which was like literally the second sentence.
We didn't get very far.
We didn't get very far.
So composed.
We're composed. I'm not going to say that word again.
No,
because she'll start laughing.
Yeah. Well, you did just say it a minute ago.
I know, but I said it in a different context. I said we were actually talking about Noonies.
That's true. Right, okay.
Right. Okay, so their ancestors include Edward Dupont De Ligonnes, who married Sophie de Lamartine, sister of the poet Alphonse de Lamartine, and whose youngest son, Charles Dupont de Ligonnes, became the Bishop of Rodez. So there's kind of high profile people in there. So that's just giving an idea about where the family comes from, like the sort of roots.
Yeah. Okay.
So Xavier, is that how you pronounce it?
Xavier.
Xavier.
Yeah.
I was just about to say, oh my god, I don't know how to pronounce that. Xavier Pierre Marie Dupont de Ligonnes was born on the 9th of January 1961 in Versailles. He was married to Agnes Hodanger, who was born on the 9th of November 1962 in Neuilly-sur-Seine in the suburbs of Paris. I should have said right at the start, I'm apologising to any French people or anybody who speaks French. In fact, anybody. I'm apologising that I have no clue when it comes to speaking French words.
Clearly.
Yeah, clearly.
Thanks, Emma.
Yeah, thanks, Emma. Love you. Really. So, Agnes, she was an assistant at a Catholic school, and Xavier was described as a salesman. He created a few different businesses. Most of those businesses catered to travelling salespeople and restaurant guests, but I'll touch more on that later.
Okay.
So Xavier and Agnes had met in the early 1980s and fell in love. Agnes was very traditional and conservative, but Xavier longed for adventure and he wanted to travel, so actually ended up splitting up with Agnes.
Right.
And he went travelling for a year. Mm-hmm. When he came back, he was like, right, we'll just pick up where we left off. Like,
just assuming that she would have
where's Agnes?
Uh-huh.
She was actually pregnant with somebody else's baby, but the father of that baby mustn't have been around because Agnes and Xavier got back together and they got married, and he actually adopted the baby, who they called Arthur. Mm-hmm. So they had 4 children, including Arthur. Mm-hmm. Arthur was born on the 7th of July 1990. At the time of this case, Arthur was 20 and he was studying for a technical diploma in IT at a private college, and he also worked at a pizza restaurant. And then there was Thomas. He was born on the 28th of August 1992. At the time of this case, he was 18 and he was studying music at university. Mm-hmm. Anne was born on the 2nd of August 1994, and at the time of this case, she was 16 and she was still in school. And Benoit was born on the 29th of May 1997, and at the time of this case, he was 13 and still at school. So that was their 4 children. Okay. So a 20-year-old, 18-year-old, 16-year-old, 13-year-old. Okay. So Agnes, the mother, she was very religious and she would regularly attend mass with the children. Other parishioners described her as being kind but strict with the children. So she was good to them but strict. Yeah. In fact, that was like our mother. Well, I say our mother. My mother, we both have the same mother, by the way, but my mother was really strict. Laura's mother, not so much.
Well, yeah, she was, but I just went to Dad.
Well,
so I didn't really feel her strictness because I just overlooked her for that.
Lovely, she just overlooked her mother.
Well, I knew that I would get my own way if I went to Dad, so I didn't even try with Mum.
Yeah, I think there's a 9-year age gap between me and Laura, and my parents and her parents are the same.
Yes.
But they're different. I think by the time they had Laura, they were kind of a bit like, oh, I can't really be bothered with this.
Just let her do what she wants.
Yeah. Or maybe it was just because Laura was such a horrible child that they're like, oh.
It's that bad.
Listen, I heard your tantrums. You were awful sometimes.
I I'm good now, though.
Ah, you're lovely. Right.
Thanks.
I loved you then, I still love you now, so
Okay.
you couldn't have done that much
I'll
wrong.
sleep better tonight knowing that one then.
So on Monday the 11th of April 2011, one of the neighbours, her name is Estelle, she noticed it at 2:30 in the afternoon, so 2:30 in the afternoon on the 11th of April. The house was closed up. Like the house, it had like, you know, when you get those houses in foreign countries, they have like shutters.
Yeah.
So you have like the window, but they have the sort of shutters over the top. Yeah.
Like in my house.
Oh, do you have them?
I've got like shutters.
Oh,
Blinds.
in foreign countries,
I've got, like,
Laura's
shutters.
along the road. Have you?
Yeah, because they open up and then
On the outside?
Oh no, they're on the inside.
Yeah, you've got the ones no, these are the ones on the outside.
Right, okay.
So like you would open the shutters and then you would open your windows.
Okay. Right, maybe that is fun then. I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah, because I've had ones like that when I've been abroad. I've had ones like that.
Yeah, maybe.
So those shutters were open all the time, because obviously they had a window to shut. So, but the shutters were always open. But on that day they were all closed. So it was like, why? Like that's a bit strange. Like those are never closed.
But could have been innocent.
Well, not in
Maybe.
this case. It's not.
Well, right, not in this case. But I mean, I'm just thinking of me personally. I don't know, but that's odd. But then I probably wouldn't think any more of it.
So she actually sort of went over to the house and she saw a note on the mailbox that was asking the postal service to stop leaving mail there. I think it said something like return to sender or something, like basically stop leaving the mail there.
Right. Okay.
So of course the neighbour was thinking, well, what's going on here with the house being all shut up? They're asking for the mail to be sent back, so something's not right.
Yeah.
Because even when the family went on holiday, like the shutters were always left open. These shutters were never closed.
All right. Okay.
So by the Wednesday, Estelle was really worried as the house was still shut up. So she decided to phone the police. So they arrived and they knocked on the door. Of course, there was no answer and the door was locked. So they called a locksmith to come and open the door and they went inside for a look. So all the furniture was still there. Some of the beds had been stripped. Some of the wardrobes were open, but it just seemed normal. Like maybe the family had maybe gone on holiday or at least left the house of their own accord.
Yeah,
there was nothing out of the ordinary, nothing standing out. Mm-hmm. There was nothing to suggest that anything untoward had happened. So basically, no need for a police investigation. Mm-hmm. But Estelle, she noticed that only one of their cars had been taken. So the one that had been taken was a Citroen C5. And this was strange because there's no way that the whole family have fitted into this one car because there's 2 adults, 4 kids, and they had 2 dogs. I think there were 2 labs.
Right, okay.
2 black labs they had. And then obviously luggage if they were going on holiday. Uh-huh. So there's no way they would have fitted in. If they'd went, they would have 2 cars. Yeah. So during this time, the family's relatives began receiving letters. So these letters were from Xavier and Agnes, explaining that, as they knew, Xavier previously had links with the USA, and that the Americans had recruited him to infiltrate an international drug ring.
All right.
So these letters went on to say that Agnes and Xavier and the kids as well, they wouldn't be able to see these relatives for a long time because they were going to be under protection. Mm-hmm. So they'd have to change their identities. So the relatives, they knew that Xavier was a well-respected man. He came from a very prestigious family. Like, his dad was a count. Right, yeah. They had, the family even had, a signet ring with the family's coat of arms on it. Okay. And it had a family motto. And, they were noble, and Agnes, she had, a Bible study group. She went to Mass every Sunday. Mm-hmm. They weren't the type of people to lie. No. So Xavier's relatives, they believed it. Mm-hmm. They believed it. However, Agnes's relatives weren't so sure. They sent the letter that they'd received to the district attorney saying it just didn't sound quite right to them. Mm-hmm. They didn't believe that Agnes would have left with the children without letting them know. Mm-hmm. So the police they went back to the house on the 15th of April. So that was 2 days after they first went. Mm-hmm. And they did a more thorough investigation this time because it had been brought to their attention about the car, just the one car being missing and the letters sent to the relatives. So obviously the first time they just kind of had a quick sort of scout around.
Didn't really investigate properly.
Yeah, this time they had a bit of a closer look. So they found out photos were missing from their frames, but apart from that, there was still nothing suspicious. But Agnes's family just kept putting pressure on the police, saying a family just doesn't disappear like that. Something has to have happened.
Like, there's got to be a reason for this.
Yeah, so the police returned again, and 3 days later, the police returned again 3 days later on the 18th of April. Nothing. They came back on the 19th. Nothing. Came back on the 20th. Each time they just did not find anything unusual. It was like the family had just
vanishing at thin air.
Yeah, but it was as if they had just left of their own accord. There was no wrongdoing, nothing.
Yeah.
However, the following day, the 21st of April, they went back again, and this time they did find something.
See, it makes me want, like, I'm having to go back multiple times.
What were they doing?
Yeah, what were they doing each time to not find anything?
That's exactly what I was thinking. Do you know that?
I mean, I'm no police expert, of course, so I don't know what the processes and stuff are, but I don't know, I just thought if you're actually there to look into something, I mean, I thought you would be quite thorough and
I mean,
it just seems like, well, why did they feel they had to go back again? Like, if they didn't find something the first time, why did they feel they had to go again? Then the second time they didn't find it, why did they... I mean, obviously it's good that they have.
Yeah, of course.
If they've now found something, but it just seems crazy that it's took them so many attempts to actually find something. Like, what were they looking for? What were they doing?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking when I was researching it. I was like, what were you doing the first, like, 5 times?
But then for something to make them go back again, they obviously had reasons to go, oh no, we need to go back.
Yeah.
But well, we've not found it, but we need to go back. I mean, I'm not saying these things are a quick process. I mean, maybe it does take a few days, I don't know, but it just seems like, you know.
We don't know.
I mean, I'm not a police expert, obviously, so.
But at least they did keep going. At least they kept persisting.
Yes.
Because they could have just been like, no, there's nothing here. But they did keep going back, and they did find something. So it was something outside, under the terrace in the garden. So from what I could sort of see, they had, like, on the ground level of the house, I think they must have had, like, maybe patio doors or something coming out and, like, a sort of terrace.
Right.
But there was actually space, like, underneath, so it wasn't right on the ground. There was, like, a sort of, I don't know, like, just an area between the terrace and the ground.
Right, okay.
There was a bit of a gap, basically. It's a bit hard to explain, but... So, so they found something, which I'll tell you in a minute. So meanwhile, the district attorney, Xavier Ronson, was holding a press conference at the courthouse to talk about the family's disappearance. He was just saying that they were opening up an investigation and a worrying disappearance when all of a sudden they stopped the press conference and answered the phone. So he was told on the phone that the police had been digging under the terrace and they had found big bin bags wrapped up in tape. And when the bags were opened, they had found bodies.
Oh.
So, of course, the press conference was stopped and the press were, like, left wondering, like, what the hell? Like, something's obviously just happened here, but... It
something
was
big.
Yeah, they were just like, that's it, we'll sort of get back to you later.
Yeah.
So these bodies, they were wrapped in duvets and blankets, so that explains why the beds were stripped in the house.
Because that's what was used,
yeah. And there was a small religious icon next to each body, a little candle and a cross. So this showed the police that it was an imitation of a religious burial. You know, with the candle and the cross. And it also showed that there was an affectionate bond between the perpetrator and the buried bodies.
Right.
You know, just the fact that they were wrapped up in the duvets and the, you know. So the bodies were of Agnes, 3 of the children, so Arthur, Benoit and Anne. So that's the oldest and the 2 youngest.
Right.
And the 2 dogs. They were all in one grave. And then the other grave was the body of the other child, Thomas.
Right.
So it looked like Thomas hadn't been killed at the same time as his mum and his siblings.
Right, okay.
Because he was in a separate grave.
Yeah.
So the police were now wondering where Xavier was. Like, was his body somewhere in the house, in the basement, the attic? Like, they searched everywhere for him, but they couldn't find his body. So obviously that's when...
I'm thinking he did it.
Yeah, well, obviously at first they were like, well, the whole family's gone missing. So they were treating it as...
Yeah, as if he might have been...
But when they couldn't find his body, it was like,
he's the prime suspect
he's
now.
the prime suspect, yeah.
Yeah.
So, an international warrant was issued, and obviously it was all over the news and the papers, and like everybody was out looking for him. For many friends, though, it was just impossible that Xavier could have murdered his family.
Mm-hmm.
And even the family attorney said that it couldn't have been him because where the bodies were found, it's really low down. So remember I said that you had the balcony or terrace or whatever you want to call it, and then there was a space between that and the ground.
Yeah.
So it's actually really low, so you'd have to obviously bend right down and sort of crawl under it. And Xavier suffered with really bad back pain.
Right, okay.
He had always complained about his bad back, which kept him from bending down. So the family attorney was like, he couldn't have buried his family because he couldn't bend down. He couldn't.
Yeah.
He couldn't get that low down to do that. So friends also said that he couldn't have murdered his children just because he was such a hands-on dad. He loved those kids to bits. He would hug them all the time, he was very affectionate with them, and it was clear to everybody that they were his world.
Yeah.
So autopsies were performed, and sleeping pills were found in the children's system. So the children had been drugged to sleep.
Okay.
But Agnes, she didn't have any drugs in her system. That's the mum. She didn't have any drugs in her system, but she had a sleep apnea machine. Do you know what that is?
Is that when you can't sleep? Or?
I think it's when you keep is it when you keep waking up or something? No, or you stop breathing or something.
Yeah, something like that.
I think it's when you stop breathing in your sleep. So this machine helped her sleep, and that machine stopped at 3 a.m. on the morning of the 3rd or the 4th of April.
Right.
It mustn't have a date on it, but it must have a time.
Yeah.
So it appeared that Agnes was the first victim, and then the children were killed. So each victim was killed by being shot twice in the head. So what I'm assuming from that was that Agnes was just shot. She didn't have any drugs. She was asleep. She was hooked up to this machine. She was shot. But the kids had been drugged and they went through and killed the kids.
God,
so the bullets had been shot from a .22 long rifle, but the neighbours hadn't been woken up by gunshots. The murders were described as methodical executions. All the victims were wearing pyjamas, so it's assumed that they were all killed in their sleep.
Yeah.
In their bed. They obviously went to bed, went to sleep, and they've been killed. But the weird thing is, there was no trace of blood found in the bedrooms.
Alright.
Or anywhere for that matter. There is no blood found in the house anywhere.
Which is, you'd think, impossible.
So how can 5 people have been shot and there's no trace of blood?
No one's heard the gunshots and there's no trace of blood. I mean, even if it had been cleaned up, you always find...
There's always that, because they use that...
The special blue light thing, isn't it, that shows up?
What's that thing called?
I can't remember what it's called.
We're not very good, are we?
No, we're not,
but there's ways of, even when something's been really well cleaned in, you can usually...
Yeah.
This, it was so confusing. This 50-year-old man, he'd never been in trouble with the law. He came from a noble family, and from the outside, he looked like he was a loving father. But yet he was now a criminal mastermind.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah, so his best friend said that Xavier was the heir to the family name, and if he killed his 3 sons, he would kill his lineage. And for the aristocratic world, for the French nobility, that's really bad. Because you're terminating a lineage.
Yeah, there'd be no one in line to take,
exactly. So that's a big deal in those circles, all this noble stuff and all that. So
why would he do that? No, because he would want his family name to be carried on for generations. Yeah. So I get that. I totally get that.
So police did a bit of digging and found that he wasn't leading the life that he was pretending to.
Okay.
So in the early 2000s, the family tried to relocate to Florida in the USA, but they didn't succeed. They thought it would be simple when it actually wasn't. I don't actually know why they didn't manage it. I don't know what the reason was, but they didn't.
Right.
And they seemed to have money problems as well, and they had bailiffs on their backs. Xavier claimed that he was a business owner and that he had successful companies and that he was travelling all over France, being a busy, successful businessman, but in truth, none of his companies had ever really been that successful. So he knew that soon his money was going to run out and that he wouldn't be able to afford the family home, and people would realise that he wasn't actually a successful businessman. His best friend said that Xavier was vain and proud, and he wouldn't want to lose face. He wouldn't want his children to find out that he's got no money.
Right.
And he would want to save them from that disgrace. So now we're going to jump back to before the murders, and I'm going to like sort of give you a timeline of like sort of notable events.
Okay.
So try and keep up.
I will try. Try my hardest.
Yeah. So in July 2010, so that's the year before the murders.
Yeah.
Xavier sent emails to his friends saying that one day there might be accidents that have happened to his family that he might be blamed for.
Oh, okay.
And he wrote, quote, "I hope that even after a police investigation, my parents, brothers and sisters will never be led to believe that I intentionally caused these accidents." And then in brackets, even if the evidence is strong.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds a bit strange.
So on the 20th of January 2011, so this is 3 months before the murders, Xavier's dad, Hubert, died of a heart attack. So Xavier, he had the job of clearing his dad's apartment out and like sorting through all his personal things. Xavier was looking for a ring that had belonged to his dad. So this was the count's signet ring that I talked about earlier.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he also wanted to see if there was any money being left to him, but there was no money left. There had actually been big money problems for years.
Right, okay.
The count lived in a rented apartment, so there wasn't even going to be any money from selling his property.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So Xavier didn't find any money, but he did find a gun. A .22 caliber long rifle.
Uh-huh.
About 2 weeks later, on the 2nd of February, Xavier got his firearms licence, which was strange because he'd never shown any interest in weapons before, but yet as soon as he inherits a gun, he learns how to shoot.
Mm.
Which, I mean, you could... Well, I've got a gun now, why not?
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, it could be, I suppose, innocent.
It could be if we went on a true crime podcast.
Well, exactly.
So he even went to the shooting range with 2 of his sons, and on the 12th of March, he bought a silencer to fit the rifle.
Which would
It's funny
make
that the
sense.
neighbours never heard any gunshots.
Uh-huh.
Still don't know about the blood, though.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I can understand the gun not being heard because of that
Yeah.
reason, but yeah, the blood intrigues me. But
Well, you'll just have to stay intrigued.
all right, you're not gonna shut that one for me.
So about 2 weeks later, on the 2nd of February, Xavier got his firearms licence, which I've just said.
Yeah, we know that already.
Yeah, and I didn't move the page up. So a receipt was later found in the family home, and it was from a DIY store, which was about 3.5 hours away from where they lived. It was dated in late March, and it listed a few purchases, including a roll of large bin liners and a box of adhesive plastic paving slabs. So the bodies were wrapped in liners, remember, because they were in the duvets and then in liners.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm wondering about the plastic paving slabs. Did they put them over? Because remember, as I said, like under the terrace, maybe there's paving slabs there, and he's maybe got plastic ones to
So
make
there
it
was
look.
no blood.
Oh.
I was thinking so there would be no trace of blood because he could have got rid of them. The plastic ones couldn't have. They could have lifted them up and then.
Well,
I don't know.
I don't know what you mean.
Well, you're saying plastic paving slabs.
Uh-huh.
So to me, they're removable. So
Well,
I thought maybe he had laid them down
Uh-huh.
for when, obviously, maybe he was moving the bodies down and then any trace of blood would have went on the plastic things and then he could have removed them so that there was no trace.
That's not what I was thinking.
Oh, right.
That's fine. We've got different. What I was thinking was that he's bought the paving slabs to put over. He's buried the bodies and put the paving slabs over the top, so it looks like they're proper paving slabs. So nobody would guess that there's bodies underneath there because there's paving slabs there.
So, oh well.
So
We have different ideas
yeah,
on that one.
we had totally different ideas there. So on Friday the 1st of April, Arthur, the oldest kid, he left college and didn't turn up to the pizza restaurant where he worked. On the 1st of every month, he always picked up his wages, so his boss was surprised that he didn't pick them up that day. So he wasn't supposed to be working that day, he was just...
Right, picking up his
He
wages.
should have been. He would have normally been picking up his wages. On Saturday the 2nd of April, Xavier bought 4 bags of lime. Each bag was 10 kilograms each, and he bought them from different shops. So calcium oxide, we're not talking about limes that you eat.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I'm just going to explain. Calcium oxide, commonly known as quicklime or burnt lime, can be used on a dead body, and basically it stops the corpse from smelling.
Oh.
So that's what he bought. He didn't buy a bag of limes. He bought...
I know, because I was thinking that's an awful lot of limes.
I know, because I actually thought that, because I'm sure I've heard that and I'm like, lime? Why would you buy lime? But that's it's
not like the fruit. Like,
yeah, no, it's like I think it's like a powder, like
Right.
like not a powder, but like something that would look like maybe sand or like dry cement. You know,
Like,
that kind of...
aye, that.
I don't know what to call it.
Like cement.
I don't know. But anyway, yeah, he also bought cement,
No.
a shovel and a hoe.
He's looking like that he's a bit guilty here at the minute.
On Sunday, the 3rd of April, a neighbour saw Agnes. Then shortly after that, he saw Xavier putting large bags into his Citroen C5. Later, the couple and 3 of the children, Arthur, Benoit and Anne, went to the cinema to see Rango and then to a restaurant for a meal. At 10:37 that night, Xavier phoned his sister Christine and left a message on her answering machine. So I've seen a couple of versions of what he actually said. So the words are slightly different, but it goes along the lines of, we were at the cinema and then we went for a meal in the restaurant and we've just come back. I'm just calling to ask if it's too late to speak to you on the phone, and now I see it's gone to voicemail. But I was surprised. You spoke to me about Bertram, that's her husband, so his brother-in-law, who's getting ready for his flight. Huh? But I thought he'd only just arrived, so I was a bit surprised. Anyway, sending you my love. If it's not too late, call me back or send me a text and I'll call you. Okay, I'm going to put the kids to bed. Say hi to everyone. See you soon. Maybe.
Okay.
That was strange. And what I really thought was strange was, I'm going to put the kids to bed. The kids are like teenagers.
Yeah.
Like, what was it? Age 20, 18, 13 and 12 maybe or something?
No, 13 was young. No, it was 16, wasn't it? Yeah. 20, 18, 16 and 13.
Oh, right.
So the youngest was 13.
Yeah, so there you go. They were all
Yeah,
teenagers.
they should be
I'm going
put
to
to
put the
bed.
kids to bed. Yeah, I thought it was a bit strange. And then, obviously, see you soon, maybe.
But then we could be lost in translation a little bit with the...
Well, yeah, of course, like, obviously, he would have been speaking French,
Yeah.
so... And I think that's probably why I've seen a couple, like, different versions of it, because of the translation, yeah. So Monday the 4th of April, so Anne and Benoit didn't turn up for school due to illness. Their friends started worrying when they couldn't get a hold of them. They did remember a rumour that the family were going to be moving to Australia,
Right.
but they didn't believe that as they believed their friends would have told them
Yeah.
if they were leaving, obviously. So Xavier spoke to his sister Christine on the phone that day for about half an hour, and she said they were just chatting, everyone was normal. That evening, Xavier and his son Thomas went out for dinner. The waiters remember that they hardly spoke to each other during the meal, and towards the end, Thomas wasn't feeling very well. So investigators believe that Xavier could have already murdered his wife and other children the night before, because remember we said it looked like Thomas had been killed at a different time.
Separate, yeah.
So then killed Thomas the following day, the 5th of April.
Maybe they'd like drugged him or something, and that's why he wasn't feeling well.
Yeah, I think that's the theory. And it's suspected that there was hesitation in killing Thomas because he was his eldest biological son.
Oh yeah.
Because
Well,
remember,
Arthur's.
Arthur was the other man's.
Yeah.
So he was the heir. So he would carry the name and be noble, and he would be the last one to carry it because there was no other members of his family who had a son or an eldest son or something like that. So basically, the only heir was Thomas. So, of course, that is if he was the one who murdered him.
The theory of it.
But that's why there's sort of thought that there's hesitation of murdering him because he was the heir.
Yeah.
So on the 5th of April, so remember, so the theory is that the Agnes and the other kids died on the 3rd or the 4th of April. But on the 5th of April, neighbours claimed to have seen Agnes in front of her house around lunchtime. An employee of a nearby hair salon claimed that they also saw Agnes around that time. Neighbours also claimed to have seen her on the 7th of April as well. But, witness reports, people can get mixed up. And,
well, exactly. I mean, I could have seen somebody last week, but it doesn't mean I remember exactly which day it is. I could be like, oh, I think it was that day, or maybe it was. I mean, unless there was something maybe significant of what I was doing that day that I know for certain, like, say I was going to get my hair done. I'm like, right, I knew I got my hair done on that day, so then I knew that I'd seen her. But then...
Yeah, I'm sure actually it must be in a little bit, it must be a bit later on as well, but that actually is the case with somebody who claims that they saw her because of something that they were doing. But I'll explain that in a minute. But yeah, I mean, it can be really unreliable.
Yeah, exactly.
So that day, Bailiff knocked on the door to recover a debt of €20,000, but nobody answered. A friend of Thomas confirmed that he spent the afternoon with Thomas. So this is on the 5th. This is on the 5th of April. So this is before he went
for dinner with his dad, is it?
Actually, no, it wouldn't have been. I'm not actually quite sure about that, because basically Thomas was supposed to be staying the night at this friend's house, but Xavier phoned him telling him to come home as his mum had been involved in a cycling accident. Thomas got the train at 10 p.m. to go home. The next day, unless that was the day before, maybe.
Maybe.
Because the next day, the friend tried to get in contact with Thomas, but Thomas texted him saying he wouldn't be going to his house or to school because he wasn't well. 2 days later, the friend received a text from Thomas saying that he was out of battery and his dad was looking for a new charger for him. And after that, no one heard from Thomas again. So Wednesday, the 6th of April, Arthur's girlfriend, the eldest son, she'd been worried, obviously, because she hadn't heard from him. So she knocked on the door. She went to the house and knocked on the door. And she said there was a light on upstairs, but no one answered and the dogs didn't bark, which was unusual. Usually they bark when somebody comes to the door.
Right.
During the week, neighbours had said that they heard the dogs howling for 2 consecutive nights and then didn't hear from them again.
Right.
So that must have been before that. So this is a bit here. So Thursday the 7th of April, a neighbour said that she spoke to Agnes on that day. She said that Agnes was walking one of the dogs and they stopped to chat briefly. She said that she knows that the autopsies put Agnes's death on the 4th of April, but the neighbour had cut their chat, she remembered, because she had cut their chat short, as she had to go and pick her son up from the childminder, as she did every Thursday.
Right, okay, see. So that's quite significant to her.
Yeah. So that's why she's convinced it was a Thursday, because that's the day that her son went to the childminder. So that's a bit confusing.
I know, because
if the autopsies put her death.
But then I guess they're obviously maybe not always 100% accurate as well.
No, of course not. But a friend of Agnes, who was a shop owner, claimed that she saw Agnes in her shop on either Thursday the 7th or Friday the 8th of April.
Which the Thursday the 7th could tie in if that other person saw her.
Yeah, it's all very confusing. So also on that day, Xavier was seen making quite a few return trips from the house to his car, loading the car with large bags. On Friday the 8th of April, Xavier wrote on the Catholic online forum site catholic.org from the IP address of the family home. So he also sent an email to Bertram, his brother-in-law, saying, "Everything's fine, Bertram. You'll hear more detailed news soon through Christine. Bye for now, all the best."
It's a bit random.
A message was also sent to Xavier's mum and sister from the family home's IP address, and the family lawyer did say that, right, okay, yeah, it was sent from their IP address, but what if it was written under duress? And there is that.
Oh, yeah, true.
So on Monday the 11th of April, so that's the day that the neighbour noticed that the house was shut. So that was all sort of the week before, and now we've come to like the 11th of April when people are noticing.
Yeah.
So on that day, Anne and Benoit's school received a letter from Xavier saying that the children were leaving the school because the family was moving to Australia due to urgent professional changes. In the Catholic school where Agnes worked, they received a resignation letter from her, like basically saying the same thing. Which is strange because it was America before.
Oh, yeah, I know.
So,
now it's Australia, so...
Like, make your mind up.
I know,
make it make sense.
Exactly. Well, see, that's what it's hard to lie, isn't it? Keep up with the lies.
Exactly. But that's a pretty big one. Like, I'm sure you could remember whether you were moving to America or Australia.
This is very true.
So, the headmaster at Agnes' school, he tried to phone her, but didn't get any answer. So, and that was the day that the relatives received the letter saying that the family were moving to America. So it was even on the same day.
Oh, yeah.
He had also told the relative... Oh, this is probably why, because he told the relative to circulate reports on social media saying the family had actually moved to Australia. So he must have been telling his family he was moving to America, but wanting everybody else to think that he was moving to Australia.
Right, okay.
That must have been it.
Right, okay.
So, Xavier spent that night at the Hotel Premier Class in Blagnac, southern France. So that's about 5.5 hours away from home. He paid by credit card and he was driving the Citroen C5 and he was by himself.
Okay.
On Wednesday, the 13th of April, the day when the police were contacted about the family being missing, Xavier spent the night at another hotel in a place called Var, which is about 10 hours away from home.
Okay.
Of course, the police weren't searching for him yet.
No.
So this was all found later, obviously.
Yeah, he was...
Because he left a trail. Mm-hmm. So on the Thursday, the 14th of April, Xavier withdrew €30 from a cash machine in Var. He spent that night at the Hotel Formule in Var, and he was caught on CCTV there, and that is the last known sighting of him. So that was the 14th of April. So the following morning, he checked out of the hotel and he left his car there. So he just wandered off without his car.
Okay.
So now we're going to jump to the 22nd of April, which is the day after the bodies were found.
Okay.
So police were obviously, now they were looking for Xavier. And they found his car where he had left it at the hotel. So that's when they started to piece together the timeline, basically, that I've just described.
Yeah.
This is when everyone was kind of coming together now. But it's weird because he was a fugitive, but yet he wasn't hiding. Like, he was using his credit card. He was withdrawing money with his bank card. And it was definitely him using his cards because he was caught on CCTV. So it wasn't like somebody had taken his cards or whatever. And along with the CCTV at the hotel, is seen on camera at the cash machine withdrawing the money. So he also used his cards at at restaurants and stuff. So
so it was quite...
He wasn't hiding.
No.
Yeah, so and it just seems weird that he would use so much caution at the crime scene because, well, there was no blood found.
No.
He got a silencer. He buried them where you wouldn't expect,
Yeah, exactly.
So he used that much caution, but then he took off and didn't try to hide his tracks.
He just sort of...
So it is thought that maybe he wasn't bothered about hiding because he was intending to kill himself at some point. So that does seem credible because he was visiting places where he had been before in his past. So maybe he was going to places that made him happy, that he had good memories from.
Yeah.
So maybe he was going to maybe end his life somewhere where he had been happy. Maybe wanted to do a few stop-offs.
Trip down memory lane.
Yeah, and then, and then end his life. And the CCTV image from the last hotel that he stayed at showed Xavier walking across the hotel car park, carrying a bag and a long object, which is assumed to be the rifle. And he looked into the camera, looked right into the CCTV camera, and according to officers, it was as if he was saying goodbye, and that was the last confirmed sighting of him. I don't know why it was as if he was saying goodbye. I mean, I don't know if he kind of nodded his head or made some sort of gesture. But that was the last confirmed sighting of him. Him just walking away with a bag, with what looked like a gun.
Yeah.
Just looking at the camera.
Oh, wow.
So he was headed...
Have you seen that? Like, have you actually seen that?
Yeah, I saw him walking away, but I didn't see anything that looked like he said goodbye. But then it was a bit grainy and, I don't know. So he was headed towards the mountains. So officers thought that he was going into the wilderness to kill himself. So search parties were sent out to look for him. And they were looking in holes behind rocks and caves. And for 2 months, they searched every nook and cranny. Yeah. With mountain guides, but no body was ever found.
Right.
So police were sure that he had killed himself, but some people think that he didn't intend to kill himself at all. He set that up to make it look like he was going to kill himself.
Right, yeah.
He went to all the places he loved and made sure there was a trail of evidence.
Yeah.
And then the final CCTV of him taking off on foot with a gun, when actually all along he had no intention of taking his own life, and he just wanted everyone to think that he was dead.
So they might stop looking for him.
Yeah, because apparently where he was, there is so many ways that he could have took off that he didn't need a car.
Yeah.
I mean, he could have even walked. I think I can't remember. I can't remember now. But he could have jumped on a boat. He could have jumped on a train.
Yeah.
There was lots of different ways that he could have got out of there. And
that's got to take some planning, though, isn't it?
Well, assuming that's what it is.
And then you just wonder, because I've always wondered about people that have disappeared. How do they cope for money? How do they get documents with names on it? How do they actually go and live somewhere? I mean, how does that happen? How do they do that?
Well, it would have to be well planned out. You couldn't just do that on a whim. I mean, money-wise, you'd have to just have cash, wouldn't you? You'd have to be somehow saving it. For a long time, you'd have to be saving up cash, putting it to the side.
Yeah.
For documents, there is ways of getting false documents.
Oh, yeah, I know there is. But I just think that's such a...
But he could have been planning it, because he knew that he was running out of money. But then he could just... Not even so much need the money, maybe he just wanted a different identity and he could go make more money, he can go and get a job a casual job. I mean, there's loads of places you can just walk in and just.
That's an awful lot of thought to put into to potentially do that.
Yeah, I know. So apparently, in these kind of murders, where a family, in these kind of murders where a father kills his family, 98% of the time he also kills himself.
Yeah.
So maybe he knew that's what police would think, so he'd be free to go and start a new life somewhere else with everyone thinking he's dead. So it looks like he made two plans. The first plan was to make sure that it took as long as possible for the bodies to be found.
Yeah.
Which is why he would have sent letters to relatives, to schools, workplaces, to make everyone think that they had gone away voluntarily.
Yeah, to give him a chance to get away and not have police looking for him.
And the second plan was to make authorities think that he had gone off into the mountain to kill himself, so they'd be looking for his body there while he was making his escape.
Which I could see that, but I just feel like that's just such a lot of...
Well, that's it. I mean, like, where did he go?
Precise planning. Where did you go? Like, how did you... like I say, what did you do for money? Where did you stay? Where, how did you start a new life? Like, how do you do that?
Well, it can be done, but obviously...
Yeah, but not when police are looking for you. I mean...
Well, but if that is the case, this is why he's planned it to make it so long. Like I said, it took them a while to realise that they'd gone to find the bodies. He left a trail thinking, right, they're going to be looking... They were looking for 2 months, mind, in the mountains.
Yeah.
That 2 months is a long time for him to make his escape to somewhere else.
Definitely.
So... but as I said, where did he go? There was no plane ticket bought in his name. None of the cars had disappeared. No cars had been rented. No train ticket. No one knows where he is. So wherever he went, unless by foot, surely he must have used a false identity.
Must have.
On the 28th of April was Agnes's and the children's funeral. This was surprisingly quick, since the bodies had only been found on the 21st of April, combined with the fact that the relatives were advised not to view the bodies. It leads Xavier's relatives to believe that the bodies recovered weren't Agnes's and the children. I don't know why they were advised not to see the body. I mean, if they were shot... I mean, it depends. I don't know.
It depends what the state...
But they found that strange, and for whatever reason...
I'd have thought they would have to be formally identified. Or...
Well, yeah. Exactly. I don't know how... Surely they had to have been sure. I'm sure the authorities would have had, like, DNA or something. I mean, because, like, if they didn't want them to be formally identified, they could take DNA from relatives to match with their DNA. They would have, surely. They're not just going to find these bodies and just assume.
I know. They've got to, like, make sure, like,
have
the evidence to say that, yes, they definitely are.
So...
But I was surprised they didn't get buried so quick.
Yeah.
I thought they may have had to have more... But then I suppose if they've determined their cause of death, then what more evidence can the bodies give off? Do you know what I mean? So maybe that's the reason, I suppose. So,
since 2011, there have been hundreds of sightings of Xavier, of course. Like, there always is when there's missing people. Investigators searched a monastery in 2018 after receiving a tip about a monk. But this monk actually just really turned out to look like Xavier.
Right.
He was like total doppelganger.
Yeah.
But it wasn't him. And another lookalike was detained by police in Glasgow, in Scotland.
All right.
This man had used a fake passport from Paris. But again, it was just somebody who looked like Xavier. It wasn't him. In 2015, a French journalist received a photo of two of the sons, Arthur and Benoit, and on the back was written, "I'm still alive, from then until this hour."
Ooh, that just sent shivers down me.
So what do you think? Do you think he's alive, or do you think did he do it? Is he alive? Is he dead?
I think he did it because...
I do. I think.
I mean, the fact that all the other bodies were there and he vanished.
Just all the planning and everything, all the letters sent out.
Yeah.
The fact that he went and bought.
Yeah.
So
I do think he did it. Whether he's killed himself or not, that's... I don't know. I feel like I'm saying no, he didn't kill himself. That's where I feel like I want to go with that. But then I'm like, did he?
I don't know. I honestly do not know. I think it's possible. I mean, just because they haven't found a body doesn't mean to say that he hasn't killed himself, because he could have went somewhere really remote. I mean, you don't know how he could have done it. Like,
but I just think that it must have taken a lot of planning. Like, if he is alive.
If he is alive, yeah.
And I just would be interested to, I don't know if I ever know, but I would be interested to know how that becomes possible. Mm-hmm. Like, how does somebody plan all that stuff and actually, to a degree, get away with it? Because at the moment he has got away with it if he's still alive.
I mean, that was 11 years ago.
Yeah.
So for 11 years, if he is alive, he's got away with it for 11 years.
Well, exactly. So it's like, how do you manage that? Because that intrigues me a lot.
But I mean, there is lots of places in the world that you could go to, some like remote places.
But then, I mean, again, like, how does that happen? Like, how do you make that happen with when you're obviously can't, you have to be under the radar because you can't use your...
You get false ID.
Oh yeah, I mean, I know, but I don't know.
It is possible, but I don't know. I don't know. I
mean, to pull it off.
I mean, yeah, to pull it off, that's a major accomplishment.
And then the whole no blood anywhere. That
See, that's what I didn't get. Right, somebody killed them.
Yeah.
Whether it was, I do believe it was him, but
even if whoever it was.
Yeah, where's the blood?
Yeah.
Because they were in their pajamas. The sleep machine went off at that time, so Agnes must have been in her bed.
Yeah.
Even if the others weren't.
I know.
So unless he's carried them outside.
Then I was thinking maybe he'd done like a Dexter style thing where he had kitted out like the floors of the house with like the sheets and stuff, so that there was no blood. But again, that's mega. I always find that really. I mean, if he's not a serial killer or whatever, and this is the one and only time he's done it.
Yeah, he's just a normal average guy.
How almost professional does it seem like he's actually somebody's achieved that, which is.
If he's still alive, he's obviously had help.
Yeah.
Because even if he had to get false ID, somebody knows that he's had to get false ID.
Oh yeah, that's true.
But I don't know.
But then, or is he dead?
Well,
but then because obviously the whole journalists getting the pictures. I mean, we know there's many people in this world that are sick and twisted, and
of course,
anybody
could have written that.
Yeah, exactly. Just could send that just to.
I don't know where they'd get the photo of the kids from though. That's the only thing, because it was a photo of the kids. I think they were at I think it said that they were at the kitchen table or something like that in the house. So like, how would they get that photo? And remember, there was photos taken from frames.
True. Well, that's
true.
Yeah, that's true. I never thought of that.
That's mind-boggling, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's annoying.
Sorry, I just thought I'd end our season on a mystery. Blame Emma.
Yeah.
It's Emma's fault.
Thanks, Emma. No, seriously, thank you very much for that suggestion. Yeah. Actually, it's a very interesting case. It's a frustrating case.
Yeah, and if anybody has any, what's the word? Any ideas, like any theories, that's the word.
Exactly, yeah.
If anybody's got any theories, then let us know. I mean, there's maybe stuff that we haven't thought of, like, or there could be other scenarios. I don't know. But
Emma, do you have a theory?
Yeah, just if anybody has a theory, let us know. And thanks again to Emma for suggesting it, because I really did find it interesting looking into this case.
And apart from our little episode at the start, I mean, you did no bad.
I'd forgotten about that. Thanks. You've just embarrassed me. Honestly, I was embarrassed. Like I actually played it back before we decided to publish it, and I was sitting there with my head in my hands because I was embarrassed.
But we've always said we're not professional. We're real. And
I know.
We don't always get it right, and we laugh. And
quite often
we're immature. That's.
Yeah, your 7-year-old told me that I was immature. Yeah. She is 7, and she said, "Oh my God, Auntie Jill, you are so immature."
Well, she's not wrong, is she?
Thanks for that.
She's not wrong.
Okay, so anyway, thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah, and before we go, so as we said earlier, this is the last episode of season 5. But I just want to take a few minutes just to say, about our Patreon. So we're going to be off for a few weeks. So in the meantime, if you'd like to give our Patreon a shot, you can head on over to patreon.com/CrimeDivers. We will put the link in the show notes. For anyone who doesn't know, Patreon is an exclusive platform for listeners to support their favourite creators by paying a monthly fee in exchange for bonus content, which includes ad-free episodes, early access to our weekly episodes, and Patreon-only episodes each month. For our Patreon, we have 2 tiers. The first one is £1, and for that, you get early access to our weekly episodes, you get ad-free episodes, and our undying love. And the other tier we have is a £3 tier, and that is, the ad-free episodes, the early access to the weekly episodes. You also get a bonus Patreon only episode a month as well. So, if you want to hear more episodes,
we've got a back catalogue there. And I just wanted to cut in and just say that even though the tiers are £1 and £3, it doesn't mean to say that it's only people in the UK, like all over the world. It'll be in your own currency.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter where in the world you are. Like everybody can access it.
Exactly, and it only takes a couple of minutes to sign up. You know, there's no contract, there's no minimum commitment, so you know you can cancel or change your tier at any time. But you know, we just thought we would let you know about that in case you know you've caught up with all our episodes and you want to hear some that you know haven't been played on our regular weekly platform.
Thanks for listening, everybody. If you want to get in contact with us, as we said earlier, if you would like to suggest a case or give us theories, you know, on this one, then we are on Instagram and Twitter at crime_divers_pod. Our email is crime_divers_pod@outlook.com. We're on YouTube and TikTok's just Crime Divers Podcast. Obviously, we've got our Patreon, which we just told you about. And another way to financially support the show is just a one-off payment to buy us a coffee, basically, you know, which is buyusacoffee.com/crime-divers.
Mm-hmm.
So, as Laura said, we will be away for a few weeks. We're not going to commit ourselves to them because I don't want to say, we're going to be back on this date and then we're not.
Yeah, but we're just taking a break. We will be back with some more true crime stories to share with you.
Laura will be depressed because she'll be back from her holiday.
Yes,
Jill will be happy because she'll have peanut butter M&Ms.
Yeah. So, and yeah, season 6.
And we'll be getting ready for your, and I'm going to say it on the pod so everybody knows, Laura is doing the Halloween episode this year.
Yes.
Since last year, I don't know if people might not have listened, but she wasn't happy because I did the Halloween episode when she'd actually recorded, researched an episode which was actually on Halloween.
I know, it happened on Halloween.
And I didn't publish it until like the week after.
Exactly. So I'm doing it this
year.
So
you're doing it this year. So yeah, we'll be back in time for spooky season.
Exactly. So, you know.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Stay safe and we'll see you soon.
See you later. Bye.